Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the Fenton reaction. I've talked about this extensively on Instagram as well as my membership platform, and I've gone into so much detail there, but I haven't touched too heavily on this topic here on YouTube. So I thought I would just explain a little bit about how the Fenton reaction works, and with that, the importance of glutathione and how that is going to impact greatly your autoimmune disease, whether it's scleroderma or psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimotos, etc. So I want to talk about it really quick. I'm going to get a little bit, very little bit technical here, but I'll summarize it at the end and explain exactly what is happening and why glutathione might be right for you. Obviously, you always want to check with your practitioner before supplementing. This is not medical advice, it's just educational, and hopefully will give you a little bit more of an insight into what might be happening with your body if you have an autoimmune. Okay, so I want to start off by just quickly explaining what the Fenton reaction is, because a lot of people don't know exactly what it is, but essentially it is a reaction that is driven by iron and copper. And essentially what's going on is you start off with hydrogen peroxide in the body. This is one of our main reactive oxygen species that is made by neutrophils in our system, and it's released into our tissues during inflammation. So hydrogen peroxide is released into our tissues when we have inflammation. This hydrogen peroxide then converts into a hydroxyl free radical during the Fenton reaction. So when this starts to happen, this free radical, it's the worst of all the free radicals in the body because it has a full charge and a free electron. So this is called a promiscuous radical, and it just essentially means that it wants to bind with any other substance. So it can bind to a hormone, neurotransmitter, lipid membranes, and whatever it binds to, it will damage it. So this free radical that is produced, it starts off as hydrogen peroxide, like I said, which gets released when there's inflammation. Through this Fenton reaction, the hydrogen peroxide converts into this hydroxyl free radical, which is very damaging. It's the worst free radical to have in the body. Now, how does this affect us? So, like I said, during this conversion, the body uses iron and or copper to make this conversion from hydrogen peroxide into the free radical. So if you have elevated iron or copper levels, for example, for a lot of people who have hemochromatosis, which just they have high levels of iron, they go through this issue. If you have high iron or copper levels, and most of us do because we are exposed to heavy metals a lot, or if you're on birth control and that drops your zinc, it elevates your copper levels, things like that. If you have a copper IUD, so having elevated iron or copper in the body is really bad in relation to this reaction, because essentially it increases the free radicals. The problem here now comes into glutathione. So when we have elevated free radical production, we're plunging through our glutathione status or levels. And as glutathione gets used up in our body to quench these free radicals, our Th1 immune status drops, which causes chronic inflammation, elevated viral burden, tissue destruction, etc. I'm going to pause here really quick. For those of you who are not familiar with what Th1 immunity is or Th1 cells, I made a whole video on YouTube going over it, so definitely give it a watch. It explains the importance of having healthy Th1 immune response if you have an autoimmune condition, because having a healthy Th1 immune response improves pathogen killing in the body and also slows down the tissue destruction. And this is a really important piece of the puzzle when trying to reverse your autoimmune condition. So just coming back now, having the elevated burden in the system of free radicals, you're using up your glutathione, which is dropping your Th1 immune status. People with copper toxicity, like I said, also have to pay attention to this, because copper also catalyzes the Fenton reaction, and this will yield major oxidative stress on the body because of the production of that hydroxyl radical. All right, just moving on now. Something else to note here. So glutathione converts that hydroxy radical into water. So it takes that really bad free radical, in the body, and it neutralizes it and converts it into water, which is why it's so important for us to have these healthy glutathione levels. But like I said, as glutathione neutralizes that free radical, we are losing our glutathione, and we end up with a deficiency of glutathione, because the more inflamed we are, the more we're using up glutathione, and the less glutathione we have, the more inflammation and free radicals we're making. A deficiency of glutathione, we're going to get a little more technical for a minute here. The deficiency of glutathione will also trigger something called TGF-beta. This TGF-beta promotes, coming back to the beginning, reactive oxygen species. So it promotes the production of the hydrogen peroxide, which can then again convert into the free radical. But because TGF-beta promotes reactive oxygen species, these free radical forming agents, it also promotes fibrosis. So this is important for somebody who has something like scleroderma or some kind of fibrosis type of condition. When you are dropping your glutathione levels and elevating TGF-beta levels, you're also elevating fibrosis potential. So this will also cause more inflammation and kind of drives that process. Glutathione inhibits the TGF-beta collagen-induced accumulation. So again, for someone who has, too much collagen being accumulated and it's causing fibrosis within the body, whether it's to your skin or to internal organs, it's very life-threatening. Having the inhibition of TGF-beta is important here, because then you'll be inhibiting that fibrosis. Coming back now, having high levels of glutathione is really, really important for this process, but for all autoimmune processes. Now, aside from that, just taking glutathione on its own is a good idea, here and there, because we are not just getting oxidative stress from the Fenton reaction. We're getting it from our lifestyle, from having stress in our life, from, eating bad foods and seed oils. The more antioxidants we lose, and the more oxidation that's occurring in the body, the more we have this need for glutathione. So most of us today are already deficient in glutathione, and then going through this Fenton reaction for us autoimmune people, we're losing even more glutathione that we already didn't have much of to begin with. So glutathione is pretty important, and I would say in my clinic or practice, most of my clients are glutathione deficient. So it is something to really think about here. Just a side note, there is a SNP, it's called GSTP1 SNP, and individuals with this genetic SNP are at a higher risk for autoimmune disease and cancer development. And a lot of oncologists will always check to see if this SNP is present with their cancer patients, and therefore will treat them accordingly. So I just wanted to put that in there. If you have the GSTP1 SNP, you're not making glutathione enough. And so that's something to think about if you know you have that SNP. Okay, coming back now. So without healthy glutathione levels, like I said, you're not going to have a healthy Th1 immune response. Our Th1 immunity scans our body for viruses, pathogens, and cancer cells. So if we are not having a strong Th1 immune system response, we are not killing off pathogens. And you guys know by following me long enough now that most of us have some degree of overgrowth within pathogens in our body. And because we have this overgrowth, our immune system is weakened, we're not killing the pathogens off, and so it's allowing these pathogens and viruses to multiply into our system, creating more inflammation, which is driving the autoimmune process. Even people who are really nervous about viruses and things going on in our world right now, it's so important to have a healthy Th1 immune status, just to protect yourself and make sure your body can mount a really good response against viruses. And that's again where glutathione comes in. And same thing, you can push back against the TGF-beta process that promotes fibrosis by taking glutathione as well. Just coming back to, going back to that hemochromatosis condition, because this is something that a lot of my clients deal with more than I thought actually would. Excessive levels of iron, which people with this condition have, like I said earlier, promotes that free radical production. This will further dump your glutathione levels, and even faster than you can replace it or recycle it. And so the body will get really overwhelmed by all of this oxidative damage, and you start to lose your glutathione status. And this becomes really futile for your immune system. Again, because now you have this weakening immune system, and you might be like, I'm getting sick all the time, or I'm so inflamed, or you might start developing other autoimmune conditions that are related to Th1 deficiency. So if you have this condition, really talk to your practitioner about incorporating glutathione and seeing if that's something that's, useful for you. But I just wanted to bring that up and talk about this because I really talk about Fenton reaction mostly on Instagram, and I get a lot of questions on YouTube, just like people saying, why when I take iron supplements I'm flaring up, or why am I flaring up, with this multivitamin or something like that. And if there's copper in it, or if there's iron, even if you're using a cast iron skillet, most people don't need that much iron in the form of a heavy metal. So be careful with your supplements. Be careful with what's happening when you're taking a supplement. If you're not feeling right, look into it. I just wanted to explain the importance of taking glutathione for autoimmune, and also monitoring your iron and copper levels, because this is a massive driver of really, really bad free radicals and inflammatory free radicals. One final thing I'll leave you with is that endocrine disruptors, which we know are to be plastics, heavy metals, birth control, etc., these also dump glutathione levels in the body, which then again, if you don't have enough glutathione, you have a ton of you have a ton of free radicals and not enough antioxidants to quench them. And so they wreak havoc and so much inflammation, and they can, again, attach to our hormones or our neurotransmitters. They can cause mental health issues. They can cause hormonal imbalances, infertility, and so much more. So that's something to think about. And at the end of the day, not everyone might need glutathione, but it's something that you at least want to bring up with your practitioner if you're not taking it, and say, hey, is this something that I might need? And this might be the final piece to the puzzle to really help kind of bring your autoimmune system back, or condition back into balance, and kind of bring your body back into balance. I hope this helps. I know it was a really quick rundown of this topic. If you want more information on this, I have so much info for you guys. Incredible info, thousands of dollars worth of free content over on my membership platform, holisticspring.org. I'll link it down below. You can come join our community, get access to so much amazing content, videos, uncensored, everything, and also access to me 24/7 to answer any of your questions. So it's definitely an awesome platform, and I'd love to see you there. Otherwise, I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye.